Greetings and welcome to a discussion on a treasure hunt book called There's Treasure Inside. Chapter 26 is a puzzle called The Past and Future Box. So I'm not going to go into all of the details about this book and the chapter and the puzzle. And I'm also probably not going to talk about anything that isn't already sort of public knowledge on the treasure hunting forums. But I'm just going to take you through a primer on this one aspect of this puzzle, of this chapter. And I would like to get the community's thoughts on at what point, am I making some assumption that is potentially wrong or potentially right, and I'm gone down a rabbit hole. So when you're solving these kind of puzzles, you're not given the instructions on how the puzzle works. So think about an escape room or a scavenger hunt when you're a kid or whatever. You encounter a piece of data, and that data actually now has three possible paths. A, you can ignore that data and not use it all because it's not intended to be part of the puzzle. B, you can take that piece of data as if it was intentionally put in the puzzle but is a red herring or a dead end, or even unintentionally put in the puzzle as a red herring or dead end. And you can spend a lot of time following those trails and leading nowhere. Or you can use the data properly because it was intended as a step in the solution. There's a big concept called confirmation bias, where, for example, I'm trying to find a place name in this word search. So I'm going to be looking for letters that come up with a place name, like here, CO, Colorado. And I'm going to go, oh, I found Colorado. It's in Colorado. But as you can see, there's like lots of C's and lots of O's and lots of other letters that also have place names. There's no reason for me to think this is a solve other than confirmation bias. So I'm just going to walk you through the path that I have taken that I think is the most likely correct puzzle, and I'm going to tell you why at each step. And I would love any feedback in the comments on at what step do you think I should go back and relook at this. Now, I have looked at this in more ways than I can even count, but we'll get to that. So, in the book, in this chapter, there is a bunch of text, a kind of a story. I'm not going to talk about that. There is a word search, and below the word search was a cryptogram. And we'll get to that later. We're going to start with the word search. So, as you all have probably done word searches, the first step is, in my mind, is to find all of the horizontal words from left to right. Now, I found 19, Crete, round, Tron, line, etc. I think it's pretty obvious. In the book itself, there's an instruction below the puzzle that says you may ignore all three-letter words and some proper nouns. Now, this in itself can be interpreted multiple ways. You may ignore means you can not count three-letter words like Lew, L-E-W. I'm just making this up. But does it say you should ignore all, or you might ignore? Most people are pretty sure you should ignore three-letter words. So that's what I'm doing. And for the moment, I'm also ignoring one-letter words like just A or I. And I'm ignoring two-letter words or state abbreviations like Colorado for now. But it doesn't say to ignore two-letter words. That's important. Like he. Here's he. I just noticed that one. There's just too many, or here's top, three-letter word. There's just too many of them. This whole grid would be automatically circled. So ignore two-letter words for now. I'm including the plural of three-letter words for now. So here's a three-letter word, eon. The plural is eons. Here's tats, which I looked it up in the dictionary. It is a word. I'm including those for now because they're four letters, even though it's two things. One, it's a plural of a three-letter word. And this one, tats, actually only has three letters in it, T, A, and S. This is a four-letter word, EONS, if you catch my drift. So for now, I'm including these 13, and I'm including Crete. It's a proper noun because it says some proper nouns should be ignored. I don't know which ones to ignore. So for now, I'm keeping them in. And Tron, I particularly like including this word because Tron was a popular movie and video game in the 80s at the time of the author's childhood. This chapter talks a lot about his childhood and games he played as a kid. So I think he would have been aware of Tron, whether or not, again, this is where we get into the divergent paths. Do I ignore Tron because it's not part of the puzzle? Do I keep it in and I'm going down a wrong path, or do I keep it in because it's intended? I have no idea. Okay, and then for now, I'm treating 19 up here in the top as one word instead of 9 and teen, two separate words, or counting all three words. I'm just counting it as one big word. So I'm essentially already making an assumption that words in a horizontal left to right cannot overlap. Each letter can only be used once within the horizontal left to right construct. Okay, let's jump to step 2. So on the left, we've got our 13 left to right words. Now I found 15 horizontal words right to left, so backwards. I found 9, I found lilac, I found north, I found estate, and I'm also I'm again ignoring the 1 and 2 letter words. I'm including the plural of 3 letter words. There are none in this example. And I'm including proper nouns for now. I don't think there are any in this example. All right. Now, step 2B. Here's my left to right and my right to left. 28 words I found. Down here in the bottom, and hopefully you can see this okay, I've basically overlaid the 2 grids into one, and I've used the lighter gray color for individual words, and the dark gray color indicates where 2 words overlap. And this would be an overlap between the left and the right. So you see there's only a couple instances where that occurs at this point. Then I am adding a 3rd grid. So I'm finding all of the vertical words from top to bottom. Count, 11, 3, anime, rams. Rams is an example of a plural 3-letter word. I'm incorporating it for now. And then we're going to merge. And then I also did before we merge, we find the vertical words bottom up. So Coke, which is a proper noun, but it's also just a verb having to do with coal furnace. Solo, you could say it's a proper noun like Han Solo or solo cups, or you can just count it as solo, meaning like I'm alone. Hiss is a 3-letter word, meaning there's only 3 letters in it, H-I and S, but I'm including it for now. Erie, like Lake Erie, is a proper noun. Okay, so point being, you've got a bunch more words starting to overlap. We've got 13 horizontal left to right, 15 right to left, 11 vertical. We now have to look at the diagonals. I'm seeing a lot of overlap within this construct. Okay, so now we've combined them all in the bottom left, and you see this E right here is actually like 5 layers or 4 layers all combined every one of these overlaps with this E. These M and N overlap in 3 layers. These dark ones overlap in 2 layers. So we're starting to kind of fill up this grid here. And one thing that people notice at this point, I think is the best place for me to bring it up, is that if you look at these white spaces, you start to see words if you were to anagram. So for example, here you get the word special pretty clearly. Here you get the word search, but notice that it overlaps with something. So this one overlaps with eerie. This one overlaps with less. So that's kind of interesting. Where this leads you is you can actually, and this, I think this is correct, that this word search hosts a bunch of anagrams that spell out basically instructions to how to play this puzzle. So the first one is there are 5 clues in this word search. If you anagram word search right here, in right here is 5 clues. You get the picture. That, like, it's pretty unmistakable. This doesn't happen by accident. And if you keep going down, it just reinforces it. So, but do not tell anyone. I'm treating any and one as 2 separate words, meaning there's 5 clues here, but none of them are obvious. Like, the word search doesn't tell you the words. So, for example, one of the words that I found, here, I'll point up here, upper left, one of the words I found was square. Square is not a clue. The word search doesn't tell you any one of the 5 clues, meaning you have to do something with square to get the clue. Maybe some of the letters in here, or maybe rearrange it, or we'll get to that, okay? Don't tell anyone. Line them up. Now, this, in my mind, means that the clues are going to be in a line. But I kind of think that this could actually mean cross out the words, like line them up, put a line on them. Like if you had a pen and paper, you would draw a line through them. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure. But then it says there are no special bends or turns. Now the word turns wraps around, I think this is showing you what he means by turns. So there's nothing where like IDES, IDES, that doesn't count because it wraps around. And by special bends, what I think he means is you don't have to, I'll go in the upper left again. You don't have to be like E to X, or sorry, here, E to X to C to E to L. XL with a special bend. So some people call this boggling, where you get letters and you connect them in a non-straight line. I think line them up, there are no special bends or turns means you don't have to do that. Just remain steady. So again, I think this just means you're not gonna have to find words that are mixed like that. Now, a lot of people are thinking no special bends or turns means don't include any letters with curves in them, like a B has 2 curves. Only include letters that have straight lines, like an N, up, down, up. I don't think that it's that easy, but this is a road we can go down, and I have gone down that road. And then people think that this says just remain steady to complete the mission, period. I think this says just remain steady, period. To complete the mission, apply a basic cipher. Now this is where, in my mind, I had mentioned that below the word search, there is a cipher puzzle. And so I think what he's saying is find words in the word search, pull out the ones that are just straight words, and then put them in a list or line them up, and then apply a cipher to that list of words somehow, to get the answer, and we'll come to that in a minute. I have tried things like replacing all of these letters with the Cipher version. I've tried doing some letters, so on and so forth. But so far we know that, okay, there is a hidden anagram of instructions and there are hidden words. Now, question that we get to is, do you unscramble the anagram and then search for your words? Or do you search for all your words and then whatever's left unscrambles the anagram? Meaning, can the anagram words or letters and the found words or letters overlap, or are they mutually exclusive? So here's a good example. If you look at this puzzle, one of the words that I found from bottom up is yeoman, here in the third construct, yeoman, Y-E-O-M-A-N. That is here in my puzzle, but once you do the anagrams, that word actually disappears or gets obliterated. I think it's here. It becomes Y-T-W-T-O-I. You know, the letters get jumbled around. So that word is now no longer searchable. So the question is, do you do the anagrams but you still include words pre-anagram? Or another option, if you look under the N in 19, you have M-O-E-Y right here, yeoman, or part of yeoman, moe. After the anagram, that becomes moon. So yeoman becomes moon. So now, do I use moon in my word search after the anagram, or do I exclude it completely? What I'm going to show you in the next couple steps is essentially getting to a point where you use the rules that you've been given to exclude words such that the anagram and the word search are mutually exclusive. Except, and there are no overlaps in the word search except for diagonal words, which all overlap or would be discarded. And maybe that's, again, now every one of those things I just said creates a branching path in how you could solve this. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but hopefully the step-by-step is showing you. So we found words, they overlap, we found an anagram. Step 8, what I'm highlighting is exactly what I was talking about. These are all the places where a found word overlapped the anagram and basically got destroyed. Or in the case of line, this was found already intact and it goes into the anagram, so you basically don't rearrange these letters. It's a very strange occurrence of that. And then there are a lot, so words like Crete and eons, shim, these get broken by the anagram. So here's how I'm deciding to handle each of these. And again, every single one of these decisions creates a branching path that I could be going wrong, but it feels correct, which is my confirmation bias. Okay, so first one, Crete. This is a proper noun. It overlaps the anagram and gets destroyed once you apply the anagram. So I'm thinking the fact that it's a proper noun means it's one that you can ignore from the word search. Yeoman gets destroyed. This feels like a bit of a stretch, but you could use the word yeoman as somebody's title, like Yeoman Rand from Star Trek. There are some other Star Trek references in this book, so perhaps that's why yeoman is not used. Erie and Coke get, in my mind, ignored because they're proper nouns and because they get destroyed by the anagram. Ohio is a 3-letter word, O, H, and I. There's there's 2 O's, so it's really only a 3-letter word, but it's also obviously a proper noun. And if we're ignoring proper nouns at this point, you might as well throw out Tron. The interesting thing about Tron is Tron overlaps completely with North and is not broken by the anagram. So once you anagram everything, Tron is still there inside of North. So for now, I think I do ignore Tron at this point. Less and hiss are 3-letter words. Even though they're 4-letter length, there's 3 letters in those words. And then, just applying that same rule, I end up getting rid of solo, eons, rams, tats, docs. Okay, now we come to one that is a little sketchy in my mind. So tone, T-O-N-E. It's an upward word. And when you apply the anagram, it gets lost. This position turns into D-O-N-R. The T is here. The O stays in place. The N stays in place, and the E is shifted over here as well. Now, one way of thinking about this is that, I have to shift these rows over so that we put tone back where it is. Another line of thinking is you count tone in the word search, and you don't worry about the fact that it gets destroyed by the anagram. The anagram is like something you do, and then you put it back to find more words. I'm at this point counting it out because there was a rapper in the 80s, 90s called Tone Loc that the author may have very well been aware of, and that is a proper name. I can't find any other reason to exclude it besides those two, but I'm excluding it mainly because the anagram breaks it up at this point. Shim, I can only imagine that this one is being ignored because of the anagram. I don't think that either that or the author just missed knowing this was here and we're supposed to include it. I don't know. So basically I go through a couple more of these. I'm not ignoring Sapphire for now because it doesn't completely overlap with Cipher. And line, even though line completely overlaps, it's still intact, so I think it counts towards both the anagram and the word search. Basically, I've got all this logic here for why I'm excluding things, not just because they look pretty. There's only really 2 of them that I'm excluding because they just don't feel right, or I should say because the anagram breaks them. Okay, so here's where you end up. So green are the anagram letters. Gray are, again, those overlapping letters. And you'll notice that there's very few gray overlaps. In fact, the only places that there are real overlaps is up here, down here, the word liar or rail. So here it's liar going left to right, rail going right to left. I don't know which one of these to include it in, or do I include it in both and count it twice? Not really sure. And then the place where a lot of letters overlap is because of these diagonals. And I think the diagonals are important, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, step 9. What you notice on the left is after I've color-coded all this stuff, there is a block in the upper left and a block in the upper right, sort of symmetrical, that are not used. They haven't been touched by a word find or the anagram. And there's this discrete block in the bottom. So these 3 shapes to me are pretty intentional, symmetrical, if you will. They're not exactly, because this is 20 by 15. And then in the middle, you've got this plus of O's. That looks pretty intentional. And look, everything else that hasn't been touched is an O. Or TNNCSC. Well, that very much looks like 3 state abbreviations to me. Now, I am not sure why he would put this here. It feels like this is pointing to maybe Georgia, which is right down here, touching all three of them. We can't really find a reason or an instruction yet to include these three. Some people like to include MA, which is Massachusetts, because Massachusetts, if you were to put these on a map of the US, technically would be to the northeast. But to me, the scale isn't right. And the T in between these two bothers me. And North Carolina and South Carolina, they're not quite this shape. I know that's going to sound weird, but this is what I see. I see these three states. I feel like those are important. And if you remember, he says to ignore 3-letter words. He doesn't say anything about 2-letter abbreviations. So for now, I'm choosing to include these three, but ignore Massachusetts. So I've colored those gray. Now the last thing that I mentioned was all those O's. So here I've colored them red just so you can see if I count these O's as sort of filler in between words, then everything is touched other than this box and the two corners. All of the O's are clustered in this space here, which is 11 by 14. I really would have liked it if it was clustered in a 10 by 10, then I would have thought this was some sort of a battleship. But don't know for sure. I'm pretty confident up to this point because of the symmetry. Again, this is my confirmation bias. But a lot of people don't like this because if you count the number of O's that I have highlighted, it's only 18. And a lot of people think that it should be 19 because of this up here, 19 round or 19 round liar, or various other reasons. They want to fit the word 19 to 19 O's. I don't see any reason to force that. If that is true, then that means the other number words like 5, 12, count 11, 3, maybe these are all important too. In fact, if you look at count 3 and in between these two is the word state, count 3 state, that could very well map to our Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina. In fact, I kind of feel like that's a pretty good fit, but I don't know. I mentioned the Cipher before. So when you solve the Cipher, you come up with you come up with a key. I've tried applying the key just to this untouched block to see if that turns into anything. It doesn't. So it turns into DA. This one is applying it to the whole grid, which I think is misleading. But if I were to apply it just up here, this would be DAC. And then some people have pointed out that if this was DAC lilac, you could anagram that to Cadillac. And in the text of the story, it talks about his grandparents counting cars on the highway. And so perhaps you need to find all the hidden cars. But I can't really find any other cars using this pattern. This upper right would cipher to GPL. And GPL doesn't seem to anagram with anything near it. So I think that, and then down here you'd get EK. I'm not sure what letter the F turns into. So you get some more kind of garbagey letters that don't really seem to make anything. So I've given up on cryptoing these specifically for now. Where was I? I think it was on step 10B. So I did another thing where I tried sliding the rows around to quote unquote line up the O's. And when I say line up, I'm essentially trying to make symmetry on this line here. So this is symmetrical, this is symmetrical, this is symmetrical, this is the plus is symmetrical, but by shifting 3 this way, 2 this way, 3 this way, 6 that way, you do get perfect symmetrical image of a moth. Don't know what to do with that. I tried taking out all the letters that have bends and turns to see what's left. There are actually exactly 5 words out of all of these without bends and turns that are not part of the. So actually, we'll start with horizontal or vertical. There's 19, 5, 12, walk, and 11. If I count words from the anagram, I get another 5, another tell, and another them, and the word line, which was in the anagram, as well as the unanagrammed word search. So, and then you also get Tennessee, TN. So our word set could be 19, 5, tell, line, them, 11, 5, Tennessee, walk, and 12 backwards. And then you would have to somehow get this down to quote unquote 5 clues. I don't really know how that works. I tried taking all of the found words and I noticed that there were 144 characters. And so I said, how could I arrange them into a 12 by 12 square? And I did that because of the word 12 and square. And 144 just seemed to fit. Can't really seem to make anything out of that. I tried looking at the overlaps in words, and interestingly enough, if you highlight them in the bottom left, you get a nice stick figure. To me, it looks like a diver, D-I-V-E-R. Again, this is confirmation biased. I think this is random and funny. And then these were the words that you get if you do the anagram first and then the word search. You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional words on top of the ones that you already wiped out by the anagram to add to your word search pool. My gut just says this is not the way you should do it. You should start with your anagram. Start with your word search, find unique words, and I think within each of these constructs, there's no overlaps until you start looking across the constructs. So I think what this is telling us is you only count each letter once, except for the diagonals can reuse a letter that was already used. That's where I am here. I decided to really relook at this, and right now, with all of what I just said, I come out with 28 unique words. Basically, there are 13 that don't have any overlap at all. There are 4 words that have overlap not on a diagonal. So, for example, liar, 19 and 9, sore and 0 down here, 0 and sore. So I kind of looked at these words and I said, well, what can I start adjusting so that I remove some of these overlaps, because they just feel like there's so few of them that they're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to use each word once. So if I do things like instead of estate, if I just take the word state, that actually eliminates the overlap with the 3, and it makes this like a whole section with no overlaps. If I get rid of the backwards 9 here and just count 19, it gets rid of an overlap. If I take the R out of divider, and just make it divide, I actually end up with only overlaps from the diagonals and NATIVES. It spells out natives. So if you use these 28 words, you get the word natives, and you also get some of the numbers from in the puzzle. You get 12, which is one of the words. You get 3, but then you've got like 4, and you've got 9, even though I was taking 9 out, blah, blah, blah. So like this feels like I went down a rabbit hole. So I backed up and I did it again, and I said, okay, how can I remove or include words to get a set of words that happens to be 26 words, because there's 26 letters in the alphabet. Again, confirmation bias, but it works, where I can fulfill all of the number words. So, for example, let's see. Okay, I don't have them listed here, but let's just look down. So 11 is the first word. There are 11 horizontal words left to write. In this case, there are 5 overlaps with diagonal letters. 19 unused letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 19 unused letters. 19 O's. So 19 can stand for 19 unused letters, and it can also stand for 19 O's. Yes, I did try plugging the unused letters into the O slots. I can't really see anything there. So again, I'm at a dead end, but it is what it is. 19, and then we come down to 3. 3 vertical words. 3 could be mentioning the 3 states. 3 could also be mentioning the 3 diagonals. 12 could be mentioning that there are 6 left to write words, plus there are 3 sets of 2-letter abbreviations, which is 6. 6 and 6 is 12. So 12 things left to write, 11 things right to left, 3 things this way, 3 things that way. Seems to feel like it fits pretty good with those. 5 intersects by the diagonals, 19 unused letters, and 19 O's. It feels like it fits, and it just happens to get to 26. But I feel like this is what my board looks like right now. Everything is covered except these 19 letters. There's 5 overlaps that spell out the word 7. Don't know what to do with that. Don't know what to do with any of this. 19 O's. So I would love to hear where you think I either went wrong or if there's something that I missed trying. Thank you for your time.